If you enjoy my work, please subscribe and like. Also, check out my Patreon for early access, patron bonuses, and stay sparkly. Street Fair, Book 2 of the Fairfolk Chronicles, written by Jeffrey Cook and Catherine Perkins, narrated by Fairy Princess Lolly. Chapter 2, Summer Plans. Guess what's coming to town this weekend? Lonnie asked, once they'd settled into the booth at the burger joint after placing their orders at the counter. Megan, Lonnie, and Justin no longer had to limit themselves to the park within walking distance, ever since Lonnie and her father had finished working on her car. Megan spread her hands slightly. If it's another opportunity to get your picture taken with Grant Imahara, I want to point out that I already did my part helping you the first time. No, the picture is still perfectly framed on my desk, thank you. This is bigger. You know the Fremont Solstice Fair? Tales of Naked Bicyclists are hard to miss. Cash's band is playing in it this year, aren't they? Yes, and also this year, there's going to be a path to the Goblin Market. Megan raised an eyebrow. And that would be... Lonnie was still bouncing with excitement on her side of the booth. Well, obviously, there's some tricky fourth-dimensional stuff. Obviously, said Megan. Which is part of the reason they only put out so many carefully selected paths for each event. Last time they were sort of close, Mom thought I was too little. Even this year, she said we have to wait until school was out to talk about it. But she says I can go, and I can take you. Which is great and all, and I get that you're excited, but what is it? Okay, well, it's sort of like a fair. Does it have naked bicyclists and cotton candy too? Megan asked, amused. Those might be some of the more mundane things there, sure, but there's not really any comparison between it and anything you'll find here. It's a fairy fair. And you want to go. So do you. If nothing else, just for the magical artwork. There'll be magical artwork? Megan asked, suddenly more intrigued. Thought that might catch your attention. Paintings that move, ancient statues, books from the Library of Alexandria, working golems, you name it. Artist's Row stretches for miles. I've had enough golems, but the rest sounds interesting. Okay, so no iron golems. That wouldn't go over well. But think of it like a carnival, bazaar, and magical strip mall rolled into one, covering about 5 miles in all directions, and operating in a sort of timelessness, so that as far as the mortal world goes, you step into and out of the path without going anywhere. You can go in and out like that for a few of our days, and then they pack up and take their temporal anomaly with them. Seriously? It just vanishes? That's how the Goblin Market works, yes. No one knows where they go in between events, but while it's there, you can find anything. Except iron golems, Megan noted with a grin. Yes, smartass, fine. Everything except iron golems. Alright, so they have everything, and we can check out Artist Row. It sounds like fun. Okay, but we need to take Justin with us. Lonnie exchanged nods with Justin just as he looked up, very briefly, from perusing the menu. And Aisling. And we need to be really careful. Well, of course Justin is coming with us, Megan said. She grinned, just a little sheepishly, at the quiet boy, who as usual was stalwartly sitting between Megan and a passerby. And it's fairy stuff. We always need to be careful. Okay, like, extra careful. The market has no violence restrictions and stuff, so we're safe that way. Even from all the things showing up that aren't locals. But just the market itself is really big and confusing, sure. Not just that. Yes, you need to stick with me, and especially by Aisling. Since people who are still lost in the market when it disappears... Megan paled a little. Wait, so, poof? No, we'll let you wait for your ride? Lonnie shook her head. Poof, gone. And anyone still inside when they do are lost till at least the next time it shows up. Sometimes they're never found at all. Justin looked up from his menu at that, but seemed to think his feelings on being lost in a temporal anomaly went without saying. Okay, Megan said. So no getting lost. Thankfully, we have a pixie. Right. And then buying things. Like I have enough money for even one moving painting. And where would I put it? I'm serious, Megan. They don't really take money anyway. It's like weird barter. Some of the vendors will take almost anything. And they really do sell everything. But the price isn't always obvious. So, like, trade one or two of my paintings for something kind of barter? Megan looked more interested, and not at all prone to caution. Maybe, but also, well, like the old stories of bargains with fairies. Some of them will take stuff like earliest memories, or the color of your eyes, and they really will take them. You need to be super careful what you bargain with. That got Megan's attention, and a short silence followed while Megan mentally bounced back and forth between taking in Lonnie's intended caution and trying to figure out not only what someone with the color of their eyes taken would look like, but how would one extract that? Deciding a change of subject was needed, finally, Megan broke the silence. So, Justin, how have the first few days of GED studying going? Well enough. Better than school did. Justin and the Cajales had come to the unanimous decision that attempting one semester as a foreign exchange student had been enough of an effort. So, of course, as the school year had ended, he'd gotten right to work on what he was told had to happen to replace school. All that trying to explain math and science, Megan reflected, and English turned out to be the worst trouble. Granted, they were lucky he could speak modern English at all, but that had been what the magical crash course was for. It's funny, not funny haha, funny peculiar, that I've kind of found Shakespeare a bit easier since all the fairy stuff started happening. I apologize again for my poor handling of information. Hey, I totally believe you about Henry IV being a jerkface, but no one at school can know you knew the guy personally. Hardly personally. I was just familiar with the sorts of things he did politically. It was part of the reason I was sent on my original quest, rallying the populace against people like him. And it turns out he won. He ended up king. Plays were written about heroes fighting for his injustices. It's uncomfortable. So, are you sorry you're not back then, sorting stuff out? I doubt I would have been able to, and I can't be sorry for what was out of my control. I'm proud to wear your favor. Justin touched the Seahawks hat that Megan had given him at court the previous fall. He wore it constantly most places, but set it beside them when at the table. We are here, and it is now. He stared at the menu. We are here, it is now, and cheese is an appetizer. They didn't have cheese in the 14th century? Of course, but you ate it last. Fruit first, cheese last. Basic health guideline. The night we met, I saw you have a chunk of cheese with an apple. We were working. It's only unhealthy if you're not working? The golems were going to be more unhealthy. It's better to have a full stomach as quickly as possible when lives are at stake. As usual, Megan found it hard to debate Justin's sensibility and didn't have much time anyway. Their number was called, and Justin helpfully slid out of the booth to go fetch the tray. When he had gone for food, Lonnie leaned in closer to Megan. You really ought to ask him out, you know. Megan blushed. We've been over this. It's not a good idea. Megan, seriously, just ask him to be your date for the fair, or something. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It is a big deal. He's still figuring out a lot of things about this time, and I don't want to take advantage of him or something. You've seen the way he looks at you, right? And the way he calls you my lady when he can get away with it? That's professional to him, the princess and her knight thing. I don't want him saying yes out of just, an obligation thing. Admirable sentiment, but I think you're wrong. Ask him. Why don't you ask him out if he's so perfect? Lonnie rolled her eyes. He's like my brother. Okay, so he's nothing like my actual brother. Justin totally doesn't get Legos, doesn't get all excited about everything, and still doesn't see why Mac insisted on the name Spaceship for the car. But you know what I mean. We're like the Wonder Twins of practical solutions. Megan snorted. Okay, now that's true. Your powers combine and the problems line up in neat little rows. Lonnie grinned. Sorted by severity and time crunch. Besides, Megan, aside from the whole school thing, he's doing fine. He works in the garden, he fixed Mom's pottery wheel. He's teamed up with Mac and promised my parents he'd help take care of any puppy Mac might receive. And my parents actually believe him. Seriously, just ask. Megan shook her head. I can't. I'm going to have enough trouble just convincing my mom to let me go to the Fremont Fair with you. No way could I explain asking a boy out. You know how she gets. As Lonnie was about to respond, Justin returned with their lunch. Megan shifted the topic, and the half Menehune, the 14th century knight, and the princess of the unseelie court talked over food, even managing to touch on subjects of a completely non-magical, non-historic, but non-dating nature. Justin refused to touch the mozzarella sticks until he'd cleared his plate. Once everyone was done eating, they filed out, Justin getting the door with his usual way of looking around like they might be attacked at any moment. After all they'd been through in the fall semester, Megan couldn't completely blame him. Then he took the back seat of the spaceship after politely helping Megan into the front. The car, ostensibly a '92 Chevy, but a little something special after being a father-daughter project for a Menehune family, took off smoother than outsiders might expect, and soon they dropped Megan off back home at the plain, off-white house in West Seattle.